Well, good evening and welcome to Crowd Church. My name is Matt Edmondson and it is great to be with you this Sunday evening. I am joined by, how would I describe you, Dan? It's like Liverpool's answer to Batman. Beside me is Dan Orange.
Which is being filmed as we speak.
Well, I know, they're waiting on you to get back.
I know, yeah. It's being filmed on the Runcorn Bridge just down the road.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, snow and everything, Batman.
Snow?
Yeah.
In the middle of summer?
Yeah. They've got fake snow on the Runcorn Bridge.
Wow. I'm going to go down and have a look. Anyway, and on my right, we've got Liverpool's answer to Superman, Mike Harris. How are we doing?
I'm doing really well. Yeah. Please be here. Look forward to it.
Did you forget your cape?
Yes. yeah. I was thinking of more like Robin.
Robin.
The leotard of my goggles.
So let us know in the comments what superhero you think you are. That would be really good. Alicia's in the comments. Hey, good to see you. Hello. Oh, yeah. Good to see you in there. But do say hi in the comments if you haven't done so already. Just write in the YouTube comments to say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. And it'll be great to interact with you on this live stream. Yes, it would. So let me run down my little checklist. I think I've done the welcome and the intro. Invite to comments. Yes, I've done that. So just to let you know that Crowd is an online church. You are welcome here. It's great to have you. We are a Christian church. We've been doing the live streaming thing. If you're new to Crowd, by the way, we've been doing it for...
I don't know, a good while.
A little while. Yeah, I don't think... since COVID. We came online in COVID, and it's a little bit different to normal church, in-person church. It's a lot more interactive. So you can join in the comments. You can ask your questions. We will try our best to answer them as we go through. Mike's going to bring the talk. We're going to chat about the talk in something called Conversation Street. So it is church. It's just a little bit different. At the end of the service, we've got live lounge. So we invite you to just come join us on Google Meet, which Zoe will put the link in the comments for. You just press the button on the thingy. So the stream deck. As she figures out the technology, there we go. So yeah, there's the comment. Go.crowd.church/me, giving you the wrong web address. The website is crowd.church. If you want to find out anything about Crowd Church, we have a brand new website. Thank you so much, everybody, by the way, who have been dialing in and telling me where all the mistakes are in the website. That's been very, very helpful. We have fixed quite a few of them. So do keep those coming in. I would genuinely love to know where the mistakes are. Crowd Church, you can find out all information about the church there. The Alpha courses we run, we've just set new dates up for a new Alpha course, which I think is the 9th of September. So if you'd like to register for that Alpha course, registration's now over. Alpha, for those of you who don't know, is basically an introduction to Christianity. So a lot of people who are sort of searching for answers, big life answers, and are sort of curious about Christianity, do Alpha. You don't have to be a Christian to do it. Most people aren't. Or if you're early in your Christian faith and you want to know some of the answers to the Christian story, then come and try Alpha. And like I say, the registration's available on the website. You can head to that and see all of those. So I think that's all of the notices. Well, actually, that's not all the notices, but I'm not going to bore you with the rest of it. We've got some really exciting stuff, actually, with Crowd coming up, some big changes. Which we're going to talk about probably, well, I don't know when we're going to, because I'm just thinking actually in August, this is the last one in July, the last live stream in August. So we don't live stream in August, the Sunday service. We do something called the non-live live stream. And so that's where we still like do a thing on YouTube with the talk. There's just none of this sort of interaction that we have, this sort of live interaction, mainly because the whole Crowd team here, we just take August as a bit of a sabbatical and just refresh ourselves because there's a lot going on. And so, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to talk about what's going on with Crowd Church. Maybe we'll do it later after the talk. We'll wait and see how it's happening. So let me put my specs on. Let's have a look at what's going on in the comments. Matt Crew, as the proofreader for the website, I saw no mistakes. That's really good.
Hey.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
Nice work.
I don't think you've looked properly yet, Matt. There'll be some. Sam says the website looks great. Thank you, Sam. Always good to see you, my friend. Let me just delete. Roz is on. Hi, Roz. How you doing? Hopefully you're having a beautiful day. Sam says hi. Ellis, new website is much better, by the way.
Good feedback.
Yeah. Oh, it's all very good feedback about the website, which is great. Catherine is on 1886. Normally when people put their usernames, so Catherine 1886, right? Normally when people put their users, it's like the year of birth, isn't it? So welcome.
Congratulations.
That's quite impressive. So good to have you on board. Let me just clear out some of these things. There we go. So yeah, great to see you. Great to have you on board. Mike, what are you talking about tonight?
So today we are talking about service. We're talking about how Jesus created a new way of living, a new way of leading. And we're going to look at that and how Jesus demonstrated that.
Fantastic. Well, unless I've missed something, Dan.
No, I think
should we jump into it?
Jump into it.
So, okay, so we're going to jump into the talk. The legendary Mike Harris, also known as Superman, is going to talk about service and this thing that Jesus set up. We're going to get into Conversation Street. Grab your notebooks, grab your pens, write in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas. And of course, if you need Superman during the talk, just again, write that in the comments. Michael Shaw will surely answer. Over to you, Mike.
Great. Well, it is super to be here. And just as a little bit of a recap, for those of you who maybe didn't see last week's crowd church, Aid was speaking, and he was speaking about answering the question, who is our neighbour? And we had a little look at that, and we had a look at why that was important to the guy who asked that question. And we looked at, who our neighbour is. And today we are looking at how we treat our neighbour. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at. And the passage, which I'm going to read out, is in the Gospel of John. So John's eyewitness account, and it's in chapter 13. So I'm just going to start by reading a little bit of that. It'll only take a few minutes. So this is John chapter 13. It says this: "It was just before the Passover festival, and Jesus knew the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him." I'm then going to jump to verse 12. "When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. 'Do you understand what I have done for you?' he asked them. 'You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." Okay, so that is the passage. Quite a famous passage of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And so, first of all, I just want to point out a few things about this passage. So the first thing is a little bit of context. So Jesus is not far off going to the cross to die. He knows that that is where he's heading. And he decides that this is a really, that one of the things that he wants to leave with the disciples is this example about how to serve. And so Jesus decides that he's going to take on the position of the lowest possible servant and wash his disciples' feet. You see, back in those times, if a Jewish person had Jewish slaves, the master wouldn't even ask the Jewish slaves to wash people's feet. It was too degrading for them. He would actually only ask Gentile slaves to do this job. This was, even within slaves, there was like this hierarchy, and the Gentile slave was the one who was asked to clean feet because it was the lowest, the most degrading job. And Jesus decides to place himself in that role. And so he takes off his outer clothes, he wraps a towel around him, and he takes on the role of this low Gentile slave. He performs this act, and then at the end of the act, he tells his disciples to do the same. And if they do it, then they will be blessed. You see, this act of Jesus serving his disciples pointed back to his life, to everything that he had done, and that it was all an act of service. That this act of washing his disciples' feet is like what he's been doing since the start. He's been serving those that are ill, those that are sick, those that are around him. He's been serving them and teaching them and feeding them. And he's been laying himself down in order to raise up these other people. And so it's pointing back. It's actually just for those geeks amongst you. It actually points even further back to Joseph. And, I've got to thank a friend of mine, Alison, who pointed this out to me, that back when Joseph, and for those of you who don't know, Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat and all that sort of story, his brothers eventually come to him in Egypt. And through Moses, he provides water for his brothers, his 11 brothers, of which, he's the 12th, for them to wash their feet. So you've got Joseph providing water for his brothers to have their feet washed before he announces who he is, before he reveals who he is. And then in Jesus, you've got Jesus washing the 12 disciples' feet before he goes to the cross to reveal who he is. So they're similar, but different, because Jesus is the one who takes on the role of the slave. You see, Moses, it was his slave who took the water out to wash his brother's feet, but Jesus took on that role himself in order to wash his disciples' feet. You see, Jesus calls us to serve and to live a life of service. This act pointed backwards to Jesus' life before this point. It was a present act of service, and it also pointed to the fact that he was just about to not just lay down his hopes and dreams, but to lay down his life on the cross. That he even lay his life down before death. He submitted to death, even death on a cross. And so Jesus calls us to serve and to serve our neighbor. And so the question, for me, and it's the same question that was asked last time, is how can I do this? Of course, I could just go out and start serving, but how can I do this? And for this, we have to look at verse 3 of this. And it says this in verse 3. It said, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. You see, Jesus knew who he was and where he'd come from. And in order for us to serve in the way that Jesus calls us to, we need to know those two things. We need to know who we are, and we need to know where we've come from. You see, because it's only then that we can serve like Jesus did from a point of power. And it's only then that it is powerful and that it is useful. We need to know who we are. Well, first of all, In order to know who you are, you need to look at Jesus. You need to read the Bible, and the Bible will tell you a number of things. And you can go and look at these. I would encourage you to Google, "Who am I in Christ?" And you'll get big lists of verses and promises that tell you who you are. So you are loved unconditionally. Romans 8:38 and 39 tells us that. There is nothing that can separate you from Jesus' love. You are forgiven. There is no condemnation. You are a new creation. You are the workmanship of God, created in order to do good works. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit. God himself lives in you. And so when you first of all recognize who you are, you don't now have to compete for attention. You don't have to compete for affirmation. You have that already because you know who you are. And that then enables you to be able to serve like Jesus did. But also you need to know where you came from. Last week, Aid talked brilliantly about the Good Samaritan. And in Conversation Street, me and Dan, we were talking about the fact that in that story, it's easy to think, oh, how do I serve other people? But it's also important to remember that we were the robber who was left for dead on the side of the road. And in the Good Samaritan story, you've got the Samaritan who eventually comes and saves this robber, puts him on his donkey, takes him to the inn and makes sure everything is there for him and pays for all of his care and stuff like that. You know, we were the robber who was on the side of the road. But Jesus, through his death and resurrection, have come and saved us and restored us and made us a new creation. And when we start to read the Bible and we look at Jesus' life and we look at where we have come from, that enables us further to be able to empathize with those that are around us and serve them better. So we need to know who we are and we need to know where we've come from. We also need to know, like Jesus did, where we are heading. And you know, Jesus is preparing a place for you. We are going to rule and reign in paradise with the one who is love, the one who has defeated death. And we are called and we are going to reign with Jesus in that place. And that is something that we can look forward to, have hope in, try and fix in our gaze. So let's remember who we are, where we've come from, and where we're heading, and that'll help us to serve. You know, I sometimes look at people who are famous, people who are, you know, very, very wealthy, and I take a bad example, but Elon Musk, and I've had conversations with people, and I've joined in these conversations where I'm like, if only, you know, given all of the power, given all of the money that he has, he could do this and he could solve this problem. And if he just did this with his power, with his influence, then he could solve this problem. And he could do this and he could do that and he could solve all these problems. You know, and you look at other people, you know, like the president of America with all of this power. And if only they could do this and this, then they would be able to solve all these problems. I want to tell you today that heaven roars you on. Heaven looks down at you with all of the power and all of the authority and all of the possibilities that you have within you and is roaring you on to serve and to influence those that are around you, to be Jesus' hands and feet with those that are around you, like your neighbor, like Aid talked about last week. And with the power of God in you, you are being cheered on. And maybe today it is time for you to to accept that challenge, to accept who you are, to accept where you've come from, to accept that you have been placed where you are, you have been given the power of God, and that you are called to serve where you are right now and have an enormous impact where you are. I can't remember who it is who says, who is it? Dallas Willard was saying, I was reading today, and he says that God's world is an arena, and you have a huge role, an indispensable role to play in it. I just want to throw out that challenge, because this is a challenging piece of scripture, that you have been called and placed where you are. It is time to get up and kneel down. I just want to finish with a little story that I heard a friend of mine say this week. It's just quite an inspiring story about how one man served someone in front of him. So this guy, I think he was a Catholic priest, and he really, really enjoyed running, but didn't have loads of money, but saved and saved and saved, and was able to eventually buy a really good pair of running trainers. And he went out running in them, and they were brilliant. They were everything that he'd hoped they were going to be. And he, they were expensive, and he recognized that they were going to last a long time, and so he thought they were a worthwhile investment. A few days after he'd bought them and been out in them and realized how good they were, a guy turned up at his door, and didn't speak the same language, and didn't have any shoes on, and clearly looked homeless, and looked in need of some real care. And so this guy was pointing to his feet, and he needed something to wear on his feet. And so this guy went and got all the shoes in his house and put them before him, and he was trying them on. And the only ones that would fit were this pair of running shoes that that this guy had just bought. And so the guy eventually decided, well, if they're the ones that fit, then you can take them. And he took them, and he went off. That night, this guy had a dream. And in this dream, and as he was recounting this story, he could barely get the dream out because he was bawling his eyes out. And as he was explaining this dream, before him in this dream stood this man who he knew to be Jesus, wearing the trainers that he'd given to this guy. And the guy who gave up these trainers, when he woke up in the morning, one of the thoughts that he had was, I could have missed that chance. I could have just gone and got any pair of shoes, a pair of shoes that we didn't use, and brought them, and this guy would have been made up with them. And I might have missed this opportunity to give to my Lord, to my Savior, to my King, the best of what I had. The people who you are surrounded by today need you to serve them. They need you to show them Jesus. And what better way? Jesus calls us to serve, to lay down our life for each other and for our friends. And when we do that, we don't always know or even get to see the power that those acts have, but they are powerful. Just to return to what Dallas Willard said, he says that God's world is an arena, and you have an indispensable role to play. It is time for us to get up and for us to lay down. Back to you, the studio.
Back to you, the studio.
Where I reside also. I thought it was on TVAM.
Yeah. Love that. It's like 1.5 meters away. Not even that. Like maybe a meter. I could probably smack you up.
You probably could.
So back to the studio. TV. You're gonna have to explain TVAM.
Yeah, that's a cultural reference from the past.
That is there's only a certain subset of people.
Yeah.
Maybe Catherine, who was born in 1886.
Maybe she can remember it. Yeah.
Although Alicia put in the comments I saw this actually. We'll get onto the talk in a second, but I did see this because her YouTube is 1316 or something like that. At least, yeah,
wow.
1316. And she goes, it was just a random number assigned by
Right.
YouTube. It's not the year she was born. She was at great pains to point that out. So, yes. Anyway, regardless of whatever age you are, you're welcome at Crowd Church. We like multi-generational church. To be fair, it's normally me that's the end of the old jokes. So
Yeah, you're the 80s.
I mean, yeah. We went on to I've just literally got back from Wildfires, which is like a festival, Christian festival down in the south of England. If you're in the UK next August, highly recommend it. I'm going to be there. We're going to talk more about it on Crowd. Come join us. Anyway, the where was I going with that? Well, what did you just say? I totally lost my train.
The 80s.
Oh, the 80s, yeah. So we're down at Wildfires, and Anna, who you will know if you're a regular to Crowd, she's one of the key hosts, one of the leaders of Crowd. Her and Andy went to one of these sort of game exchange cafes, which I'd never heard of. It's where you go. Have you heard of this?
No.
You go
At
into
Wildfires.
No, it wasn't at Wildfires. It was on the sort of way to Wildfires. It's where you go. You take a game.
Yeah.
And you leave that game, but you take another game. So it's just like a game swap, which is kind of cool. Anyway, Anna bought 80s trivia. We thought you'd like this, Matt, but we never actually did play it on Wildfires. So maybe we'll do that live on the air one day. Anyway, I digress. Love that, Mike. So it's interesting, isn't it? This whole, I think with these kind of stories, right?
Yeah.
They become so familiar that it's like you don't think about it. It becomes autonomous. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we know Jesus washed disciples' feet. I probably should do something and serve at some point. And you're off to the next one.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge when you prepared the talk?
The biggest challenge was thinking about. I was talking last week about these two groups of people, and you hear a talk about you need to serve. And you've got one group of people who will just go out and do it. They're just people who say, right, if Jesus says I'm to serve, then I'm going to go and serve.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other group of people who just don't think they're worthy.
Yeah.
And so they just feel condemned.
Yeah.
So you've got one group of people who just go and do it. Their heart isn't really in it, but they just go and do it. And then you've got the other group of people who just feel condemned. And so the challenge was to try and think about, so how do we help? How do we help both groups?
Yeah.
I loved it, Mike. I really loved the heaven roars you on.
Yeah.
You know, and like you were saying, it's easy to say, oh, Elon Musk could do that. These people could say that. Bill Gates can, make another vaccine, pay for that. Always putting the emphasis on someone else because they've got money. But we have heaven's resources, don't we? And we've got, no matter what our task is, God's got something for us to do, like that priest giving his running shoes, that if you can affect a life like that, that's what God wants us to do.
Yeah. That's such a good point, isn't it? And I think it's one of those things where let's just put here in the comments actually, what in our society is the washing of people's feet that we could do for others? And that's a really interesting question, I think. Now, I want to tie this in actually with something that Alicia said. So she put in the comments, let me see if I can find it here. It's incredible how Christ demonstrates such humility, and that humility isn't at all humiliation, but a powerful demonstration of his love and majesty. And it reminds me of Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Now, if you've not seen these comments, by the way, we live stream both horizontally and vertically on YouTube. There's 2 live streams going on, and so we have to sort of remember to look at the comment streams. But this is an interesting point, I think, because Ellis is asking, what are the washing of the feet things? And I love, and I was in the comments chatting with Alicia about this, because I think it's great that it sort of defines these good works that God's got before, that God's sort of preordains that we walk in. These good works are acts of service, right? That's what the word ministry is. And he's prepared these ahead of time for us to do.
Yeah.
And so, I guess, what are these good works in the modern day era? And I guess coupled with that is, how do you see them as good works rather than a chore? Because in my head, do you know what I mean, when you're, I don't know, maybe Zoe is better answering this question, but when we talked about chores with our kids, the word chore is never a word you'd go, that's how can I do more chores, Dad? I'm so excited about doing chores. It's just the word chore itself. You washed our feet metaphorically. It's true. We were away and Zoe had made dinner for when we got back because she's a legend. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we view these things as chores. There's a negative connotation with them. So
chores is a very, it doesn't inspire, does it? Because it is just like,
got to put the trash out.
Yes,
it's a chore.
That's a chore. Oh,
rather than
chore that is. Yeah, right.
I just need to serve my wife.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just something I need to do. Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I love. Sorry, Mike. You put that God's got an indispensable role, or was that what Dallas Willard said? I really like that phrase, because it is, isn't it? I can think sometimes, oh, someone else could do that, or I could do this, but is that as good as that? Or it's not as great as what Paul did or Peter did. You know, he's got an indispensable role for us as individuals. We can't, I think we talked last week, it's not something to compare. It's not my task that I've got to do is comparable with someone else. That doesn't work. It's just what God's got for us. Let's do for him. And that's the important thing. It doesn't matter about its size or its, standing or whatever that might be.
I totally agree. And I think you put your thumb on a really good point there, is in that you're doing it for God. And I think sometimes, I can see see a way of serving somebody, but I might not particularly like that person. But I know that there's commands for me to serve. But I do know that I love God. And so I think sometimes that's where we can get our motivation from. We could say, okay, at this moment, I don't have those gushing feelings towards this person, but I do love God. And therefore, out of love for God, I'm gonna do this. And I think the more you do that, I know I've experienced this in my own life on occasions where I've decided to do that for somebody, is that the emotions follow.
Yeah.
But then they're not always the driver.
Yes.
And there's an interesting part at the end of that, which can be a bit confused at the end of that passage, where Jesus basically says, look, a slave is not greater than his master. And Jesus is saying, you aren't greater than I am. And look at what I'm doing. I'm washing the disciples' feet. And so we can identify with Jesus and say, yes, you are right. I'm not greater than you. I've seen you washing other people's feet, and therefore I'm going to do the same. I'm going to, I'm going to step up, and I'm going to do it. I think it's also good, that verse that you said, it talks about the good works that God has prepared for us to do. Now, that good is good according to him. Not necessarily according to us. Romans 8:28 says God works all things for the good of those who love him. And so we think everything in my life, God's working to make me better, to make me bigger, and to make me stronger. It's like, no, the good is according to him. And we do have heaven to look forward to and paradise to look forward to, but that good is according to him. Not and sometimes that is going to elevate us and lift us up, and sometimes it's going to mean that
more often than it's not.
It's not.
It's more about other people, isn't it? So I love this idea. I mean, you made reference to it, Mike. I love this idea that in the Bible, Jesus tells you how to be great, in the sense that greatness or being great was often seen in the church as a sort of a dirty word. Do you know what I mean? It's a bad. What do you mean be great? You shouldn't want to be great. Have no aspirations. Have no drive. Do you know what I mean? Have no desire to do great things. Jesus says, no, if you want to be great, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Here's how you do it. You be servant to all.
Paul says run the race to win, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Not run the race to dawdle or,
Yeah. Do it.
get
Do
to
it
the end.
Don't fart about, but do it. And it's like, but he says, if you want to be great, you've got to be servant to all. He throws the whole thing upside down. And so leadership then, ministry becomes about who you serve rather than who serves you.
Yeah.
And so the good works that God's got beforehand that we should walk in will often be at a blessing to someone else, or will be to serve someone else. And usually, as you guys talked about last week, that will be at a cost to us.
Yeah.
And so not all the time. And you do get that. There is a benefit, I think, to serve. And even psychologists now say this, don't they? That you get this sort of kind of really good sort of feeling and vibe when you help somebody or when you give something. Do you know what I mean? And it's and so it's not totally altruistic, but at the same time, good works, like you say, are what God says, and usually that's for the benefit of somebody else. You are blessed to be a blessing, right? It's that whole drive, and I find that super duper challenging. I mean, super challenging,
especially within the context within which we live, which is all about stepping on each other, elevating yourself. How quickly can you get up that ladder? How many likes, how many subscribers, all of that kind of thing. You know, and so we're called to swim against that, and that's really hard to do. And
well, it is, because we live in a and just thinking that through, right? Our whole culture is, I want it faster and I want it easier, right? I don't want any effort involved in what's going on. The whole thing about AI, you either hate it or love it, because there's going to be a robot that's going to bring you a cup of tea whenever you want it, right? And we're all like, ooh. And it's this idea that actually those kind of tasks are menial, they're beneath us. And here we see Jesus doing the most menial and lowest of tasks, which is washing the disciples' feet. And he wasn't like, dude, come here, feet are dirty, sort them out. Here are my feet. Do me a pedicure while you're at it. It wasn't like that, was it? It was like, here, give me your feet, dude. I know they stink. I'm going to sort it. This is not like, I wouldn't want to do that job. I genuinely would not want to do that job. No. I've got a thing about touching people's feet. I don't know. I don't know how he did it. But it's just, do you know what I mean? It is this kind of idea that greatness is found in the menial tasks, doing them for other people. I don't see that many leadership books.
You don't. And, you know, the thing is that those opportunities to serve like that are all around us. And, you know, like Dallas Willard was saying, we've got this indispensable role to play. And Jesus has prepared these good works for us to do. And it's such a challenge for me, because, you know, there will be times, I'm sure today, where there have been opportunities for me to lay aside my hopes for the day to serve somebody else. It has to be. It has to be. And I've not seen them. I've been too busy. I've been too elevated in my own thinking that I've missed them. But they're there. They're there for all of us. And not only that, but God has given us everything we need, all the resources of heaven, and everything we need to be able to go and fulfill that role, meet that need. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is.
It is. So what would you say then, going back to Ellis's question, are some of the modern day examples of washing people's feet? Because I mean, if you just went in the street and said, can I wash your feet? I'm not sure that would go down particularly well. But I what would be, do you think, some modern examples of this?
Two examples that I'm thinking of that have just come to mind. Very, very different. First one is to I'm looking for the best way to describe this. Not befriend, but bless people who are seen as toxic.
Mm.
So, you know, for some people who've maybe messed up in terrible ways, being the person who's prepared to risk your reputation to go and administer something of Jesus' love to them, to not completely disown them, that would potentially be something that could put some dirt on you, if you like.
Yes.
Another way, I think, just praising other people. I think the more I'm online, the less I see of people praising other people.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lost art. And, you know, when you praise somebody else, you really are trying to lift them up, potentially at your own expense. So I think wholeheartedly praising other people and looking for things that are praiseworthy in other people and praising them for it is another way you could do it.
That's a really good point. Just being generous.
Yeah, I like that, Mike. And I think nowadays with the whole cancel culture, it's very easy to not even, you know, if you're online, not even like something because you're concerned that links you to that statement. What, you know, I like what they said there, but what about what they said, you know, 10 years ago? But it's the same as me, isn't it? We are infallible people. Fallible.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know how infallible I am, but you go for it. I mean, you are Batman. So.
we make mistakes. That's easy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And it's just praising what someone's said or done, or just loving them in that way. Yeah. Even I was thinking a much more menial thing: the first person to make the cup of tea. You know, in our culture, it's not like sitting there. Oh, I made one last time. You know, when you're in the office, it's your turn. He hasn't got one. Yeah, he hasn't done the round. Being the first person, just little things.
I know it's another sort of spiritual thing, but I think forgiving people as well, it's just really hard and it costs you a lot, and you don't see anything about forgiveness really on social media, other than to say you need to forgive people because it benefits you. And you know, that's another thing that can put dirt on you in one sense, in that it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you to do that.
Yeah. I think it's whenever you think about serving or ministering to somebody, the way I would answer this question, I mean, we can sit here and come up with 1,000 different ways, right, of how to do it. I think what happens is God puts opportunities in front of you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's more, God, help me see the opportunity that I have in front of me. And usually that is found in a people group that you probably have a bit of a heart for, right? So some people have a heart, say, for the homeless. So the guys at Green Pastures Charity, a registered charity in the UK run by Andrew and his dad, Pastor Pete, amazing charity, got a real heart for the homeless, right? And they serve the homeless in a great way. You've got people who have a heart for, say, sex workers. You've got people who've got a heart for those that work in the NHS or in medicine, right? So, there's something God will have put inside you, I would say, Alice, where you have a heart for a certain people group. And so the big question then becomes, if that's where I'm feeling that specific aspect of God's outpouring through me, how do I best serve in that community, in that people group? And I think the easiest way to find that out is just to go and ask somebody, because to talk to anybody for 5 minutes, they'll tell you what the 4 biggest problems are in whatever it is they're working in. And you go, right, well, how can I make a difference there? And I think it's such a powerful way of reframing, rather than just going, oh, well, that's nasty, isn't it? They're just going to have to sort that out or do whatever. So today we were... we had, visiting one of the NHS hospitals. It's easy to complain about the hospital. But at the same time, I'm like, how can I serve these people? How can I bless them? How can I encourage them? And so, when you're talking to the nurse or whatever, I always like to use a phrase, legend. You are a legend. Do you know what I mean? And just coming back to heaping praise on people, rather than you are a pain in the neck and you need to sort your life out, which may be true. But we'll start with the legend first. But I think, where's your heart? What's that people group God has got on your heart? But also, what are the opportunities in front of you right now? Just think back through your day, and if you're in the world where today is just literally starting for you, think back through your yesterday and just think through 3 or 4 events. I reckon there'll be a half a dozen opportunities in there for you to serve, right? So me being in the hospital, there would have been opportunities there to serve. Even here tonight, coming in, we have opportunities. You got here early and you set all of this up, so we didn't have to do it, which was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. But it's like there was none of that, or you weren't here on time. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've done all of this. It's not the vibe. It's not the culture. We just like, how can we serve? How can we bless each other? Even on the campsite. Everybody was taking everybody's tents down. How they all got packed up, I have no idea. But it was just lovely to see everybody sort of digging in and helping. There's always opportunities to serve, and they don't have to see. The thing about washing the disciples' feet, I look at that and go, that's weird, but it was an everyday thing. It happened all the time. It needed doing on a regular basis, and Jesus just went away and did it. It was not a big monumental thing that needed £1 million fundraising. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, I'll go do that.
I'll go do that.
And it doesn't have to be a big thing. Me and my wife were traveling on Monday and we listened to this unbelievable podcast. Like
was it What's the Story?
It wasn't that one actually, but it was.
That is a
It is a very good podcast, yeah. But on this occasion, it wasn't that one. It was a guy called Simon Gilbo who's been on What's the Story.
Yes. In fact, Simon was at Wildfires. His
was he?
Yeah, I saw Simon. It's great. Yeah.
And
Check out his podcast.
He was talking with a lady called Mary, and I'll put the link on because just unbelievable. She very, very brief. She just had horrendous.
Sorry, did you say you've put the link on?
No, I will do. Yeah,
I'll do that now.
Okay,
talk about it. Yeah.
Horrendous upbringing. So many things happened to her. Anyway, you need to listen to the story. But she was saying like, "This is my last walk. I'm going out. I'm with my dog. She's homeless. She looked a mess. She was going to basically end her life before she probably did some damage to this guy that had really abused her." And a guy just walked past her and said, "How was your day?" "No, have a good day." And that's it. Never saw that guy again. Radically changed her life.
Wow.
Like just that word, because she looked a mess.
Yeah.
And it was the right time for her. And I think it really spoke to me that it doesn't have to be big gestures.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it's people that we wouldn't talk to, or just are we aware of God's prompting, just to not be in our own thoughts all the time. And really spoke to me.
Wow.
Yeah. Beautiful testimony. She's just impacted so many lives and stuff since. Yeah.
Amazing. I think one thing throughout the day that would change my motivation is to remember that when, like that guy who just says, "Have a great day," something like that. But I think about going throughout my day and all the opportunities that I've got to serve is to remember that when I see an opportunity to serve, that it's God who's asking me to go and do that. I think sometimes the task can seem menial. If say you're working in an office or something like that, and there's something that needs doing that isn't your job, and you go and do it, and maybe it seems menial because you think doing this is helping my boss or something like that. But when we remember that task, go and say hello to that person, is something that a good work that God has planned in advance for you to do. You're being asked by the creator of the universe to go and do that.
Yeah.
And we mess it up all the time, and we don't do it, and we create 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't. But remembering as you go through your day, looking for opportunities, that it is that it is the creator of the universe that is asking you to go and do that. And I think that changes things.
Yes.
That changes things when it's like,
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you put that chair away? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you pay for this for that person? I'm more motivated to do that when I remember that it's he who has gone before me and prepared these works for me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that comes back to what you said earlier. Remember who you are, where you've come from, what you're going. Right?
Yeah.
And you drew it out actually right at the start of that verse, or right at the start of those verses. What was it? It said, let me just pull up the scripture here so I don't mess it up. But it was, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power. That's a remarkable statement, isn't it? It's like, all things are under my power. And it's like, even in the midst of that, he still serves. Remember who you are, where you've come from, where you're going. And I think that sense of identity frees you from this need to try and prove yourself, right? Or by having everybody serve me, right? Look how good I am. I've got all this going on around me. This sort of, it frees you from that need because you go, well, I'm God's. I'm already enough. He's given me everything I need that pertains to life and godliness. I'm content with that. Bring it on. I can now serve. I don't need to prove anything to anybody, right? And I think there's something quite remarkable about that. That verse is not there by accident. Do you know what I mean? When John wrote this gospel, or Mark, or whoever wrote the gospel, it's like, yes, Jesus knew this, and he did it anyway. I love that. That's the whole Philippians thing. And let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. He did not consider it robbery to be called equal with God. And it's like, who humbled himself even to the point of death and became a servant. Do you know what I mean? It's that. That's the whole deal. It's like, humble yourself, become a servant, and change the world. It's a remarkable formula. We should put that on a t-shirt. New t-shirt slogan. Just look at the comments.
I think as Jesus, used lots of parables a lot of the time to be able to communicate things. But just as what you were saying then, Matt, he was asked who will be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And he answered that quite plainly. He says, be the humble. And, for me, what greater act of humility than Jesus washing the disciples' feet? But you've got to remember, like, all of the things that Jesus made himself not subject to, but placed himself under. So you've got all the tax system. You've got the fact that he's in a human body. You've got the fact that he grew up with all the temptations. You've got the fact that there was rules, bad rules, bad occupation that he had to, and he had all the power to solve it in a second. Yet he placed himself
culture,
all of that distorted culture. He was faced with all these disciples that were just absolutely useless, and and then he submitted to even death itself. And you just think that's humility, and the way we get humility is by knowing who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going, and when we know that we can serve.
And the next day, he knew he was going to be crucified. That's the. I think I can't do much today because it's work tomorrow.
I can't do much today. I'm getting crucified.
But I'm still going to wash your feet.
It'd be a heck
I
of
need
an
to get this
excuse.
done.
It's a really interesting point. Jeez, I've not thought about that. So Alicia has put in the comments, one of my recent projects is figuring out how to make one of my sister's brownies. It's a small thing, but our kitchen makes me claustrophobic, so it feels big to me. And it means a lot to her because she knows how uncomfortable I get in tight spaces. Sometimes it really is the little things. Don't ask me why I made my... anybody out there that wants to make the brownies for Crowd Church for the hosts and the speakers of Sunday live stream.
Oh, yes.
All is greatly received. But I love that. It's the little things. And actually, again, Alicia's highlighted this point that it sometimes costs you. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, right?
Yeah.
It can feel weird in the sense of it's unusual. It's a little bit different to go out and serve. So it would feel weird if I started washing feet, for example. I mean, but it's like so it can cost you. It can feel like that. So I think that's awesome. Keep making the brownies, and I'm sure your sister will love it. Helping those who are heavily judged by society seems like a timeless example of washing people's feet. Yes, I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Alice's question makes me think of groups who are still heavily stigmatized, like those with visibly displayed addictions and visible psychiatric symptoms. I think that's a big one, isn't it? Mental health. There's a big opportunity to serve in that whole arena there. What's happening in August? Oh, geez, we should probably talk about August. I'll come back to that. Thinking of 1 Corinthians, this is Alicia again, 12:22. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat them with special honor. That's a really cool thing in church, that we should be doing a lot more. Yeah, very good. Hopefully I've got through all of the comments. Matt Cruz says drop some brownies off for all website proofreaders as well. Yeah. I think you've got something going on with the brownies, Alicia. That's it. Everyone's just now thinking of brownies, which is just a beautiful thing. So, thanks, Mike.
That's all right.
Thanks, Dan. Before we go, let's talk about let me just remind you what's going to happen in August. So we do have the non-live live stream. So we will still be putting stuff out every week. I'm just looking slightly wide-eyed because just put Mike's camera on the screen. His background's changed.
He's on holiday already.
It's like
that's what's happening in August. We are going on holiday.
Mike's already there. He's joining us live from the beach, which I absolutely love. Is that just totally gone now, Zoe? Is that what's happened? Okay, you're going to fix that. So yes, love that. That's brilliant. So yeah, we're going to do the non-live live streams in August. So do keep joining in. Do still write your comments. People will be joining in and watching. The small groups, depending on which small group you're in, may or may not be happening, but the small group leaders will be informing you about that. Like I said, every bit of information you need is on the website. Coming up in September, we are making some big changes. Well, I'd say big. Let me not overemphasize. We're going to make some changes to Crowd. We're going to introduce a church membership, which we're going to talk about. We're going to be doing small groups slightly differently, bigger and better, ergo more awesome. So really excited about some of the changes coming to small groups. So if you're not a member of a church, if you're not, and you would like Crowd to be your church, we'd love to talk to you about membership. The small groups, if you're not in small groups, come join us on Wednesday night. We'd love to see you in the various small groups. If you'd like to talk to me or Dan or Mike or any one of the Crowd Church leadership, just about Crowd, what's going on, all that sort of stuff, before obviously becoming like a member, we'd love to talk to you. But yeah, what else is happening in Crowd in September? More in-person meetups.
Yes.
That's another big thing that's happening. We're going to be doing a lot more in-person meetups around the UK. We're going to be doing them in the north and in the south. Wildfires next year, which literally I've just come off the back of. We're going to be doing a big crowd gathering there at Wildfires. If you'd like to come join us, we'd love to see you there. More details will be coming up on the website soon, but you'll probably have to book that quite quickly because Wildfires does sell out quite quickly. Alicia says, so many exciting developments. Yes. Alice, what's membership? Stay connected, Alice. We will talk to you a bit more about that. It's basically where you make brownies every week.
Yeah. Don't worry, membership does sound a bit sometimes like subscription and stuff like
Yeah,
that. That's not it. Don't worry. Yeah, wait till September.
Yeah. It's a good thing. We
Yeah,
promise. It's a good thing. Sorry, you don't have to give your inside leg measurement and all that sort of stuff to join. All it is just saying, listen,
I want to be part of.
I want to be part of crowds. Yeah. We know from a pastoral standpoint who we're responsible for, which is really great, and who we're shepherding. And so it's just, that's all it is. It's not a big deal. But I say it's not a big deal. I'm really excited by it. I think it's going to be great. So but like I say, a lot more information coming soon on the website. We will talk more about it in September, which is when we're going to launch all of these things. But for now, we are going to go to Live Lounge. I nearly called it Live Stream. It's not Live Stream, Live Lounge. Zoe's put it in the comments, the go.crowd.church/meet if you'd like to come and meet us in there. But yeah, any final comments from you, Mike?
I suppose just look out for ways to serve this week, and just remember that it's Jesus. It's He who is asking you to serve. And maybe one way is just to praise people. Look for ways to praise people this week.
Yeah, Stan.
I think what Mike said in his talk, just who you are in Christ. Perhaps just Google that. Who am if you've given your life to God? Search who are you in Christ and see what He's done for you. And if you haven't given your life to Jesus, get to know Him.
Yeah.
Send an email if you've got any questions. Get to know this Jesus. Best decision you'll ever make.
Very good. Very true. And you can also go to the Crowd Church website. There's a whole bunch of stuff about identity on there. Just click the identity link and it'll be in there. All the scriptures, everything. There are a lot of talks about identity. So, yes. Well, have a phenomenal summer. Whatever you're doing in August, I hope you have a great time. Really, really excited for the summer plans. What have you got going on over summer? Are you doing anything exciting? You going away?
I'm going away, yes. At the end of, I was just saying, one of my customers has said we can stay in his place in Spain in the heat. Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He's not there. he's getting out there, and we're a family going. So very much looking forward to that. Yes,
nice, love that. What are you doing, Mike?
Gardening. For most of it, but
is it the busiest time of the year for you and your gardening service?
It is pretty busy. It's pretty busy. Looking to try and sell some plants, and then we're off to Devon for a week.
Nice, brilliant. Well, whatever your summer plans are, we wish you a very, very happy summer. Like I say, do stay connected with us over August. It just won't have the live conversation stuff. That will start again back in September. Hopefully we'll see you in Live Lounge, but that's it from me. That's it from Dan. That's it from Mike. God bless you. You are an absolute legend. See you soon. Bye for now.